So one of the most embarrassing days of my life came about as a result of me not knowing how to play basketball. And I should know how to play basketball, okay? I was always tall. I grew up in Washington, D.C., but I never learned. Like my dad didn't know how to play, so he didn't teach me. I think people typically learn from dads and stuff like that. And I just did not know how to play basketball. So, by the time high school comes around, everybody knows how to play basketball except for me. I'm 6'4", awkward as hell, like a nerd, with a real pert of mouth. And the coach is coming up to me, come and try out for the team. I'm like, really? That's not, because even when I kind of try on my own to learn, it's sort of like if you have grown up in a house without pets, okay, and then you go to without animals, right? And then you go to pet a dog for the first time. You see those people that always like, because they're afraid they're going to get bitten or something. They do those real awkward pets. That was me dribbling, okay? And I don't want that to be public. I don't need the humiliation. High school's hard enough. Adolescence is hard enough. There's acne and stuff, So anytime there was time to play basketball, I'm like, I'm just going to the nurse's office, or, I think I pulled a ligament. So I moved to New York City, immerse myself in the anonymity of New York City. I'm a young man. It's the 90s. I'm doing comedy. I love it. I have a commercial agent, and I've booked a few commercials, right? Commercials are also, they're very random, very arbitrary. Like you might book this, you might book that, you may, it doesn't, there's really there's no logic to them, I believe. So he calls me one day and he's like, I got a sort of an audition for you. You play basketball, right? And I haven't divulged my ineptitude, right, to these people. And I'm like, nah. He's like, you don't play. He's like, didn't we talk about? You're so tall though. Didn't we talk about you playing college ball? I'm like, it's gotta be someone else you were talking to. Definitely not me. And he's like, I don't know. But you understand how the game is played. I'm like, I understand that there are two baskets and then teams. And he's like, that's all you need to know. Believe me. He's like, there's a guy, this French film director. He's shooting a Nike commercial. This guy saw you somewhere doing some comedy, talking about Brooklyn. Two things this guy loves is Brooklyn and basketball, and he wants to meet you. So it's not like an audition per se. Sort of, you're meeting him. So I'm like, okay, all right. And this guy knows I don't play basketball, and he's like, just don't even worry about it. Just go meet this guy. So I'm like, okay. And he goes, the one thing he did say is that he wanted you to do. And I said, well, what's that? Because so I'm figuring it's like, preparing some kind of sides or some kind of dialogue or whatever. And he goes, he wants you to represent Brooklyn. So I'm like, okay. Now, this is a very strange request. Like, I don't know how you just walk into a place and represent Brooklyn. You just walk in there, pop, 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 shoot all you motherfuckers and leave, Maybe that's how you do it in the 90s. I don't know. Now it's more like, you have a latte and a dog with Uggs, and that represents Brooklyn. But this is the 90s. So I'm thinking about how to represent Brooklyn. I don't know. I get to the audition, and there's this French guy in a room, and he's got like a posse behind him, and he's got on like a throwback Puma warm-up suit with his name spray painted, Jacques, on it, like on the subways, the graffiti style blocks. And everybody got fat shoelaces, and his crew's behind him. They're all looking at me. They got doing that fucking Run DMC, the 80s. They're like, these guys are like 10 years behind of what one guy. I can't even believe it. I did see a Rising Sun headband. There was a Rising Sun headband. Okay, so I'm like, okay, yeah, and the guy's hyped up to see me. He's like, Brooklyn, Mr. Beam, Brooklyn in the house. So I'm reading the room. So I roll with it. And so I'm like, word, son, word. Right? And he's like, obviously, Brooklyn, tell me about Brooklyn. So I'm like, I'm rolling with him. I'm like, Brooklyn is the bomb, kid. Brooklyn is the bomb. So he's like, this is what I'm talking. I love this guy. Brooklyn is the bomb. This is right. And he's like, let me ask you something. What do you think about the Bronx? So I'm like, Bronx is whack. Ain't nothing in the Bronx, right? He's like, I love it. That That is New York, Brooklyn versus the Bronx, and they don't like each other, and that is the chemistry. And then he says that, what don't you like about the Bronx? And I'm running out of shit. I mean, I'm like about to use the word fresh, you know. And so I'm like, yo. So I'm buying time. I'm saying yo a lot. Yo. And then I said, they be doing crimes and biting rhymes. Right? He's like, biting rhymes is what the Bronx does. They're notorious for biting rhymes. So then he sits back and he looks at me. He's like, you know what you just did for Brooklyn? And and I'm like, what, son? You know, I'm talking out the side of my mouth like John Leguizamo. And he goes, you represent. So apparently I represented. I leave. I'm not sure about exactly what has transpired in that. It was such a surreal situation. Next day, I get a call from the agent. The agent's like, man, this dude fucking loved you. He loved you. He's like Mr. B from Brooklyn. That's not my name. You know, I don't know why he's called Mr. B from Brooklyn. He's like, he's making you the main dude in this Nike commercial, man. So that's going to be good money, you know, whatever. So I'm like, hey, this is great. He's like, this guy won't, you know, so I'm like, what is this commercial about? Like, what's happening in it? And he says, don't worry about it. You know how basketball works. That's all that matters. All you got to do is just know how it works. Shoot the ball. So 2 days later, it's the morning. A big van comes to pick me up, and it's got all these really tall black guys in it, right? And I get in. Everybody's like, yo, Mr. B. Mr. B got those skills. And I'm like, Mr. B, you got the skills. And somehow these guys think that I'm a really great basketball player. I don't understand it. So I started asking around. So it turns out that this French film director has done a 3-week tournament, street ball tournament, to qualify for this commercial, to find the best street ball players in New York at the Washington Square, the 3rd Street courts. And these guys are like the creme de la creme of that. And they think because I wasn't at any of the games that I'm that good. That's what he's told them, that I'm that good. And I'm the star of the commercial. I'm that good that I didn't even have to be at any of these games. So it's a little disconcerting. But I'm like, I just got to know how to, you know, the mechanics of it. The ball goes in the basket, I watch and whatever. So we get to the set, and the set is in the Bronx, and it's just hilarious. Like, it's the French version of what they think New York is. You know, it's like trash cans on fire, dudes with fingerless gloves rapping, you know, check 1 2 1 2, you know, the fucking just hammer pants. It's like, it's the most bizarre thing. And the neighborhood, you know, there's like the projects in there. There's all these people coming out, and they're looking at this kind of interpretation of the Bronx. It's kind of like if you ever saw Rumble in the Bronx with Jackie Chan. That whole shit was shot in Toronto. So this is like that. Okay? So another van pulls up. All these other tall, skinny guys get out. The director comes over. He's like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're doing a real game. We're going to film a real game. This is no bullshit. This is the real deal. Real deal, Holyfield. And it's going to be Brooklyn versus the Bronx. And he goes, and the winner of this game, okay, is going to get a part in my basketball movie that I am filming in the next 6 months. So he goes, so represent your borough. So everybody's like, oh shit, this shit's on. And Brooklyn's like, yo, we got Mr. B, yo, this shit's on. And all I can think of is I have never played in a real basketball game of any kind. The last thing I played in a kickball game. That was it. In Miss Mitchell's class in 1st grade. Okay? That was it. So, you know, because I always got out of any kind of PE stuff. You know, I hurt my knee. I'm gonna go through the earth. So I'm terrified, right? So I'm like, I gotta tell these guys. So I tell everybody on my team, like, listen, don't give me the ball. I don't know what this dude's thinking, and it's Mr. B, and it's not even my name. But I just don't even hand it to me. I'll be on the peripheral edges, and you guys play the game, and I'll just be, you know, there, looking tall. And nobody believes me. They think I'm fucking around. They think I'm joking. You know, everybody's like, man, this is your moment, man. Seize your moment, son. You know, the stars, son. You can't step away from the limelight. This is you. So the shit starts, and immediately I get a ball, and I immediately get rid of it. I'm like, I throw it away. It comes back. Somebody else gets it, scores a basket on the wrong team or whatever, the Bronx. People are like, oh, nah, Mr. B just warming up. And they keep throwing me the ball. I keep trying to get rid of it. I'm trying to stand on the outside, because I don't want to do that dribble thing, because that's really, I don't want that on camera, honestly. And finally the director's like, Mr. B, take the ball, shoot the ball. You want to shoot the ball. Everybody throws the ball to Mr. B. So, it's a real game, but it's also a little fix for Mr. B to. So I get the ball and I shoot it, and when I say shoot, that's that term, I don't even know if you can call it shooting. I released and unleashed it from my hands, and it completely missed the basket, the backboard, the fucking stick thing that holds the whole thing up, and just went. And it's just like people in the Bronx are watching this thing, and then my team is watching, and everybody's just like, they've never seen anybody miss so dramatic. It was as if I was just throwing it to God, just completely away. And they retrieve the ball. The game starts again, and I hear on the megaphone, "Don't throw the ball to Mr. B no more." Brooklyn loses, unfortunately. And now I have to ride. The French guy doesn't even say goodbye. No au revoir, nothing to me. Okay, now I got to ride in the van back from the Bronx with the losing in the movie basketball team that was probably largely because of me, and it was just silent. I mean, I got these hard looks. It was just silent. So finally, it was such a relief to get out of that van. That van went to drop me off, and I turned around and was like, "Bye, guys. Just everybody take care." And I remember hearing one guy say, "Mr. B done fucked it up for all the other letters of the alphabet."